And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Tuesday, June the 24th, in the house with your boy Tre Larkins on the Wise Guys Sports Show. Everybody go follow Wise Guys on Twitter at Wise Guys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. We begin tonight's show in the NBA with Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Indiana Pacers 103-91 in Game 7. SGA, he finished with 29 points, shot 8 of 27 from the floor, 12 assists. He was named NBA Finals MVP. Jalen Williams finished with 20 points for the Thunder, and Benedict Mathurin finished with 24 points, 13 rebounds for the Indiana Pacers. And Tyrese Halliburton suffered a right Achilles injury in the first quarter, and he finished with 9 points, shot 3 of 5 from the floor, 3 of 4 from three-point range. And the Thunder win the series 4-3. The Thunder win their first NBA title since 2008, since they moved to OKC. They became the youngest team in 48 years to win an NBA championship, and they are now 19-2 this season following a loss, 7-0 in this year's postseason. So, as I watch Game 7 between the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder, before I get into how I feel about OKC as a team, let's break down Game 7 specifically. One of my biggest takeaways from Game 7 was the OKC Thunder and their ability to play elite defense. And that is the biggest reason why the OKC Thunder are NBA champions today. During Game 7, the Indiana Pacers, they shot better from the field than the OKC Thunder. The Indiana Pacers shot better from three-point range than the OKC Thunder. The Indiana Pacers shot better from the free throw line than the OKC Thunder. And the Indiana Pacers out-rebounded the OKC Thunder. So you would think that that would lead to a Pacers victory in Game 7 of an NBA Finals. But the biggest reason why OKC won Game 7 and finished the regular season with a 68-14 record and a 16-7 record in the postseason was because of their elite defense. I'm looking at Game 7, and obviously I'm going to get to Tyrese Halliburton injury here in a bit. But in Game 7 specifically, the OKC Thunder, they won Game 7 and won the NBA championship because of their elite defense. You look at Game 7, it was a back-and-forth battle between the Pacers and the Thunder. The Pacers continued to battle despite losing Tyrese Halliburton, and the Pacers even had a 1-point lead at halftime. I'm watching the finals, and I'm thinking to myself, OKC better get it together because they have no reason or no business losing a Game 7 at home with an NBA championship on the line when the Pacers don't have arguably their best player in Tyrese Halliburton. So the Pacers were up 1 at halftime, and they started the third quarter. TJ McConnell hit a bunch of shots, and the Pacers were in the game. But the game completely changed during a 7.5-minute stretch at the end of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter. This started at the 3:30 mark in the third quarter to the 8-minute mark in the fourth quarter. The Thunder outscored the Pacers 19-2. The Thunder shot 8 of 14 from the field. The Pacers shot 1 of 11 from the field. The Thunder shot 3 of 6 from three-point range. The Pacers shot 0 of 5 from three-point range. The Thunder had 0 turnovers. The Pacers had 4 turnovers. The Thunder had 4 steals and blocks. The Pacers had 0 steals and blocks during that 8-minute stretch at the end of the third quarter towards the beginning of the fourth quarter. And that was the biggest difference in the game. That was the biggest difference in the game. Yes, the Pacers cut it to like 10, but the game was essentially over after this 8-minute stretch from the 3:30 mark of the third quarter to the 8-minute mark in the fourth quarter. That's when OKC clamped down defensively, and they amped up their defensive intensity. And that's been their calling card all season long. You look at the OKC Thunder and their ranks in the regular season and in the postseason. In defensive efficiency, the Thunder were ranked first in the regular season. In the postseason, they were also ranked first. In opponents' field goal percentage, they were ranked first in the regular season. In the postseason, they were ranked second. In steals per game, they were ranked first in the regular season. They also were ranked first in the postseason. So this Thunder team with a Jalen Williams, an Alex Caruso, a SGA, a Chet Holmgren, and Isaiah Hartenstein as their rim protectors. They are an elite defensive basketball team. Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, who's built like a linebacker, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, and their rim protectors with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. That is why the OKC Thunder sit here today as NBA champions. They have a great defensive basketball team, and they were great in the regular season, and they were great in the postseason. And in Game 7 specifically, it was a back and forth battle until late in the third quarter when the Thunder clamped down defensively and amped up their defensive intensity. And the Pacers had 0 answers for the Thunder's elite defense. And honestly, when you look at these two statistics, this was the biggest difference in Game 7. The Pacers had 23 turnovers. The Thunder had 8 turnovers. The Pacers had 70 shot attempts. The Thunder had 87 shot attempts. So the Thunder shot 17 more shots than the Pacers did. And they forced 23 turnovers in Game 7. 23 turnovers. And the Thunder had 32 points off of those 23 Pacers turnovers. And that was the game. That was the game. I'm looking at the statistics. The Pacers actually played well in Game 7, and they lost Tyrese Halliburton. And losing Tyrese Halliburton was devastating for the Indiana Pacers. And the thing is, I know the result is not what we wanted or what Tyrese Halliburton wanted because he tore his Achilles. But I commend Tyrese Halliburton, and I would have made the exact decision that Tyrese Halliburton made. Despite Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles, I do believe that even though he tore his Achilles, him tearing his Achilles gave him closure. Because if Tyrese Halliburton, remember he injured his calf and was dealing with the calf injury in Game 5. He played in Game 6, and there were questions about whether or not Halliburton should play in Game 6 and Game 7. And to me, it was an easy decision. He knew the risk that he was taking by playing on this calf injury. And that was actually my first thought when I saw Tyrese Halliburton get injured in the first quarter in Game 7. My first thought was, it took me back to 2019 Kevin Durant, weeks prior to the Warriors being in the finals, he was dealing with a calf injury. He decided to come back and try and help the Golden State Warriors three-peat, and he tore his Achilles in Toronto in Game 5, I believe, of the NBA Finals in 2019. That's exactly what happened with Tyrese Halliburton. So these calf injuries, they are serious, and they are nothing to mess around with. Players should not play on injured calves. These calf injuries are serious, and it's clear that calf injuries can turn into torn Achilles out for the next season. But the reason why I say Halliburton got closure tearing his Achilles, if he doesn't play in Game 6 or Game 7, he is going to regret it for the rest of his life. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to capture your first NBA championship and the first NBA championship in your franchise history. There is no guarantee that the Indiana Pacers would get back to an NBA Finals next year or the year after or at any point in Tyrese Halliburton's career. Game 6 and Game 7 of the NBA Finals are the two most important games in his life. So I understand his decision to play in Game 6, a game that he actually played well, and also play in Game 7. And the sad part for Tyrese Halliburton, he was off to a tremendous start. I mean, the brother had 9 points, shot 3 of 5 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range. Like, he was balling to begin this game. He was on pace to have a great performance in Game 7. And sadly, he tore his Achilles. So I feel for Tyrese Halliburton, and I feel for the Indiana Pacers. They really showed me something this year in the NBA playoffs. And for Tyrese Halliburton specifically, and I'm going to get to OKC here in a minute. For Tyrese Halliburton specifically, there were people that had doubts about whether or not Tyrese Halliburton is a legitimate star in the NBA. So much so that there were peers of his who voted him the most overrated NBA star. And they should be exposed. Tyrese Halliburton had four game-tying or game-winning shots in each round of the NBA playoffs for the Indiana Pacers. So he has established himself as a bona fide star in the NBA. He's not a superstar, but he is a star in the NBA, and he deserves credit for leading the Indiana Pacers to within one win away from an NBA championship. And the Indiana Pacers as a basketball team deserve a ton of credit. They showed me something this year in the NBA playoffs. They earned my respect. And I know we don't give out participation trophies in sports, but damn, the Indiana Pacers sure did not only earn my respect, but earn the respect of their peers and other teams in the NBA. Rick Carlisle is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and they have a nice young core that can be championship contenders once Halliburton returns in 2026, 2027 season. Because he's not going to play next year, unfortunately. But back to the NBA Finals in Game 7 in OKC Thunder. So, again, for me, it was a back-and-forth game. And OKC, with their defensive intensity, when it amped up at the end of the third quarter and at the start of the fourth quarter, that's when they created separation from the Indiana Pacers. And I thought that all season long, we talked about the OKC Thunder and whether or not they were going to get over the hump. They finished the regular season with a 68-14 record. They were first in the Western Conference. They were the first overall seed in the NBA playoffs. SGA won NBA MVP, and they go to the playoffs. I thought in the playoffs they had two difficult series against the Nuggets and the Pacers, and they dominated in two other series against the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. So I thought they had two completely opposite series during their playoff run, and they dominated the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves, and they struggled against the Nuggets and the Pacers, so much so that in each series against the Nuggets and against the Pacers, each game went exactly the same. Go look it up. Against the Nuggets and against the Pacers, they were down 2-1. Game 4 on the road, and they trailed in both games. In Game 4 against the Nuggets in Denver and Game 4 against the Pacers in Indiana, the Thunder trailed by double digits, and they overcame adversity and won both of those games, and they took 3-2 leads in both of those series. Now they lost Game 6 in both of those series, but they prevailed at home in Game 7 in the conference semifinals against the Nuggets and in the NBA Finals against the Pacers. So they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit. And their trio of SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, they are young and they are hungry. And I felt like they answered the call when they were called upon. They answered the call in a major, major way. I thought, and I'm going to get to SGA here in a minute, I thought Jalen Williams played sensational in games 3, 4, and 5 of the NBA Finals. Now, he struggled in game 7 a little bit, 20 points, shot 7 of 20 from the floor. But in games 3, 4, and 5, Jalen Williams was balling. And it looked like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen out there, not SGA and Jalen Williams. That's how great SGA and Jalen Williams played in games 3, 4, and 5. They looked like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And that dynamic duo is what helped them win games 3, 4, and 5. But SGA, he balled out the entire NBA Finals. I mean, the man averaged 30 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. Now, when it comes to Game 7 specifically, SGA, he became the 5th player in NBA history with 25 points and 10 assists in a Game 7 of an NBA Finals. Also, SGA, he is the 2nd player in NBA history with 650 points, 100 rebounds, and 150 assists in a postseason. The only other player to accomplish that feat was LeBron James in 2018 with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Also, SGA, he became only the 4th player to win a scoring title, an NBA MVP, and an NBA Finals MVP in the same season. Only Kareem, MJ, and Shaq did it prior to SGA accomplishing that feat this season. Kareem did it once, MJ did it 4 times, and Shaq did it in 2001 time. So SGA has put himself in some elite company. I mean, this brother had a tremendous season. Scoring title, winning NBA MVP, winning NBA Western Conference Finals MVP, and capping all that off with an NBA Finals MVP and an NBA Finals championship overall. SGA had one of the greatest individual seasons from a player we have ever seen. And he is now a top 5 player in my eyes. Now, we can talk about where he ranks in the top 5. For me, he's number 5. I would say that Giannis and Jokic are 1 and 2, and they are interchangeable at 1 or 2. I would say Steph Curry is still a top 5 player when he's at his best and healthy. And I believe Jason Tatum, yes, Jason Tatum is still better than SGA because of his body of work, specifically in the playoffs. SGA is balling, and he had a better season than Tatum this year. And SGA, from an individual standpoint, he's accomplished more than Tatum with his NBA MVP and his NBA Finals MVP and scoring title. But I would take JT based on what JT has accomplished since he's came into the NBA. Since he's came into the NBA, the Celtics have been to multiple NBA Finals. Also, they've been to multiple conference finals. So I would take Tatum over SGA slightly. But I believe SGA definitely has solidified himself as a top 5 player in the NBA. The brother is an elite scorer. And I'm not ready to say, because some people are going crazy. They're saying, oh, SGA, as a scorer, he's as great as Kobe or great as Jordan. No, stop. SGA is a great scorer, and he's a tremendous mid-range shooter. The brother can get to his spot, and it is a skill the way he can draw fouls on the opposing team. That is a skill. That is not something that every star has been able to develop. But his ability to, even when he's struggling, he can still get to the free throw line and hit his free throw shots. In Game 7, he went to the free throw line 12 times. Now, he didn't shoot well. He didn't shoot well in Game 7. He only shot 30% from the floor, 8 of 27, but he got to the free throw line and made 11 key free throws. That is a skill, folks. We may not like it from an entertaining standpoint because sometimes I do get bored watching SGA shoot so many damn free throws. But it is a skill for him being able to draw fouls on opposing teams. But do I believe SGA is as great of a scorer as a Kobe Bryant? Absolutely not. Do I believe SGA is as great of a scorer as a Michael Jordan? Absolutely not. Do I believe SGA is as great as a scorer as a Kevin Durant? Absolutely not. But in today's NBA, SGA is the best scorer in the NBA. Kevin Durant is about to be 37, so I can't say that Kevin Durant is still the best scorer in the NBA. He's one of them. But I probably would take SGA over Kevin Durant as a scorer moving forward because he's younger. But overall, I just feel like this OKC team, and big shout out to Mark Daigneault as well. Mark Daigneault, he's the head coach for OKC. I believe he became the 5th youngest head coach to win an NBA championship. I had questions about Daigneault. Coming into the finals, Mark Daigneault, he changed up his starting lineup, and my first thought was Rick Carlisle is already in his head. Rick Carlisle was already in his head. But big shout out to Mark Daigneault, specifically Game 4. I remember Game 4, he rested SGA early in the first half, I believe in the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter, and that gave SGA more energy at the end of the third quarter and in the fourth quarter to close the deal for OKC to even up the series and not go down 3-1. So big shout out to Mark Daigneault. He is an NBA champion as a head coach. And Sam Presti, the general manager for the OKC Thunder. He finally got it done because he has put together some very, very good teams, and they have not been able to get over the hump. And this OKC Thunder team finally got over the hump. And they are a great defensive basketball team. They are one of the greatest defensive teams in NBA history. And they also became the 7th different NBA champion in the last 7 years. So there's parity in the NBA. And real quick on OKC. They now have the fourth best points per game differential in a single season, only behind the 70-71 Bucks, the 2016-17 Warriors, and the 95-96 Bulls. They have the fourth best points per game differential, and they won 84 games this year. They went 68-14 in the regular season, and they went 16-7 in the postseason. So they finished with an 84-21 record in the regular season and in the postseason. And those 84 wins, it's only been 3 NBA champions who have won 84 games or more in a single season. The 95 and 96 Bulls and the 96-97 Bulls and these Oklahoma City Thunder. So big shout out to them. And we'll see if they can repeat next year. Now, let's talk about whether or not I believe that this OKC team is better than prior teams who won NBA championships. So, when I think about OKC, there were people prior to the Thunder winning the NBA championship, and now they've won the NBA championship. Maybe it's Thunder fans, SGA fans. They are saying now that this OKC team should be considered an all-time great team. And when you ask the question, should OKC be considered an all-time great team? The answer to that question is an emphatic hell no. Absolutely not. This OKC team should not be considered a great team. And the reason why I cannot consider this OKC team an all-time great team is because when you compare them to prior great teams, let's talk about it. Could this OKC team beat Magic and Kareem's Lakers? Could this OKC team beat Jordan's Bulls in the 90s? Absolutely not. Could this OKC team beat Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Tim Duncan? Absolutely not. Could this OKC team beat LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh in Miami? Absolutely not. Could this OKC team beat the Golden State Warriors? Forget about the Warriors with Kevin Durant. Could they beat the Golden State Warriors with their prime Steph Curry and Klay Thompson? Absolutely not. We know the Warriors with Kevin Durant would smoke the OKC Thunder. Could the OKC Thunder beat a 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers team that featured LeBron James and Kyrie Irving? Absolutely not. Could the OKC Thunder beat Kobe and Shaq's Lakers in the early 2000s? Absolutely not. Hell, I don't even believe that the OKC Thunder could have beaten the Boston Celtics from last year with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford. I don't believe that OKC could even beat the KD, Russ, Harden OKC Thunder team that went to the NBA Finals and lost to LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh in 2012, I believe. No, I don't believe that this OKC team could beat KD, Russ, and Harden, and Serge Ibaka also was on that team. This OKC team wouldn't stand a chance against that version of OKC. So please stop the nonsense. Stop the cap, as the young folks say, trying to pretend like this OKC team is an all-time great team. They are a all-time great defensive team, but just because you have a great season does not mean you should be considered a great team. OKC is a good team, but they are not a great team. I just named multiple teams that I would consider all-time great teams that would have beaten this OKC team. So I've been seeing this stuff on social media, and it really pisses me off because I think sometimes people have amnesia and they forget about how great Magic and Kareem's Lakers were. They forget about how great Jordan's Bulls were in the 90s. They forget about how dominant Kobe and Shaq's Lakers were in the early 2000s. They forget about how great Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and Greg Popovich were with the San Antonio Spurs. Even though they never won back-to-back championships, they were dominant in the Tim Duncan era. We forget about how great the Miami Heat were with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. We forget about how great the Golden State Warriors were with the Splash Brothers, with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. We forget about how great the Golden State Warriors were when they brought in Kevin Durant to team up with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala. We forget about how great the Boston Celtics were last year from three-point range. The Boston Celtics set records last year from three-point range as a team. Now, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were their stars, but they set records from the three. And that actually is one of the reasons why I don't believe OKC should be considered an all-time great team. Because there were times in the postseason where they struggled offensively. Now, their defense made up for their inability to score at times, but no, this OKC team should not be considered an all-time great team. So please cut the nonsense. Let's celebrate their championship. They are the youngest team in 48 years to win an NBA championship, and they have a young core that they will build around for future seasons to come. But to say that they're an all-time great team is insane. But they do have a nice core with SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Williams, and we'll see if they can repeat next year. But big shout out to OKC winning their first NBA championship in franchise history, and big shout out to the Indiana Pacers for bringing basketball back to Indiana in a big, big way. I mean, Indiana Pacers, they lost in the NBA Finals, but those guys have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, they lost Tyrese Halliburton, and they still believe that they had a chance to win the NBA Finals despite losing Halliburton, and they played like it. I think they just ran out of gas at the end of the third quarter, and that's what propelled OKC to their first championship in franchise history. But it was a great NBA Finals between two small market teams. So shout out to the Pacers and big shout out to the Thunder. We'll be right back.